Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Well, it's happened again. I'm actually in a studio in person with someone, which is freaking awesome. So it's super exciting today to welcome Samantha Daily to the podcast.
Yes, I'm so excited that we got to do this. We're in Miami. This is so fun.
Yeah, I'm just excited, and I'm so excited because we've already sort of had a chat because you've interviewed me for your podcast, and so many of the things that you were talking about, I'm like, wow, there's your design. We were talking a lot about authenticity as well. So I'm going to refer back to your design quite a bit because I'm like, you are so in alignment with why you're here. But
good.
Before I get ahead of all of that, I do want to let you guys know that Samantha is a 5-1 sacral manifesting generator. Cross of the, where did it go? I did have it a second ago. The left ankle cross of identification too. And what's really fascinating is this cross is all about you being you to reflect back to others who they are.
Ooh.
And we've talked a lot about authenticity, and the 5-1, the 5 is here it's called universalize. So anyone who has a line 5, they want to have a big impact. And it's interesting because, you teach success, and at the same time, if you've got a line 5, then the odds are you're going to be potentially globally successful because we're so driven to have that level of success, not for success sake, for impact sake. So I would love to hear your story because I believe strongly that we talk a lot about purpose in my world. And I really believe that our purpose is catalyzed in a moment, in an experience that looks more like the dark night of the soul. It's this time where for some reason we are at our lowest point, and instead of going, oh, that's it, I give up, I'm screwed, we say something different. And that's like, okay, I'm going to change from this, I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to grow from this. So I'd really love to hear your story about that, from the dark night of the soul to, this incredible powerhouse that you are today.
Okay, so if I think about the biggest kind of transition or catalyst to bringing me to where I am today, the story kind of starts when I was in college. And I think it's so funny when I think back on this, even before going away to university, I had no idea what I was meant to do or who I was supposed to become in the world. I was really throughout school just wondering what am I going to do for a career? It really was this big question mark for me. And I even remember specifically sitting in my bed one night with my laptop on top of me. I'm still in high school and I'm doing all my applications to schools, and I'm trying to think what degree am I going to go and study, because I don't really know what I'm meant to do or how I'm going to help or what aligns with me. And when I was really young, I had always said that I wanted to be an author, and then I kind of was saying that I wanted to be a teacher. And so it's interesting that a lot of my work now is done through teaching, through speaking, through writing. And so it's kind of morphed into its own version of that. But logic, took over when I started to get a little bit older, and I was like, well, teachers don't make any money. And what am I going to write about? I'm not going to be an author. Let's not be crazy here, even though now I would love to write a book someday. So I probably will be
Exactly.
literally an author at some point. And so that left me really confused of what am I supposed to do? So I remember Googling, sitting in my bed at night with my laptop, jobs for people that are good with people. It's literally so desperate to find a path or figure out what I was supposed to do. And so I was like, okay, I guess PR, marketing, that could be a thing for me. And so that's what I ended up going to school and studying. I studied strategic communication. I took classes on marketing, on web design, PR, crisis communication, those sorts of things, and really felt like I was going to go work in the corporate world. And my vision at that point was I'm going to be this really independent, boss woman. I'm going to make the money. I'm going to have the success story. I'm going to climb the ladder. I pictured myself just really crushing it in that arena. But in my third year of university, I studied abroad in Spain because I had discovered that I was, quite good at learning the Spanish language throughout school. And I'm like, well, this is a cool skill and it'll probably serve me in life, so I should just kind of go all in on it. I followed that sacral of I kind of like this. So I was also studying Spanish for business in university. I'm like, great, this is my ticket. It's going to allow my parents to like let me study abroad because I'd never traveled. I'm a Sagittarius as well. So I was like, get me out of here. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, really gray, cold, snowy town. I could just tell that I was not in the environment that I was supposed to be in. I felt like I was just meant for something so much more, but I didn't know what that was. And so when I got this chance to study abroad through the fact that I had been studying Spanish in Spain, I was like, wow, my whole world just kind of started to open up. And I was seeing so many different ways of living and, you know, the different pace that people lived at in Europe. And it's just, it was so magical to me to get to like see and feel and experience a totally different version of life. And I had, you know, very few worries at the time. I was so carefree. I was just I was so lit up. Like I fucking loved it. I was like, this is the vibe. And I think that's how I attracted my partner while I was there, because I didn't have to try, like we talked about. I didn't have to make a list. I didn't have to manifest him. I wasn't even looking for a partner. I didn't even want a relationship. I just wanted to continue to follow that pull of what was lighting me up and what felt exciting and expansive and risky, but like amazing. And so I was like, I'm gonna go on a date with a Spanish guy and we'll see what happens. And so we went on that date, and it was so bad because our communication was like really rocky. You know, me texting him using Google Translator, he probably thought I was like so good. And then we got in person and I'm like, so rocky. By the end of the date, I was like, oh my God, like this was really, really embarrassing. And he dropped me off at my host family's house and parked the car, and he just said, ciao. And I got out of the car, no hug.
Wow.
No, nothing. So I was like, okay, surely, like I'm never going to hear from this guy again. That was really awkward. And the next day I went to London for a trip to kind of meet up with some of my other friends that were also studying in Europe at the time. And I remember telling them about like the guy and the date. I'm like, it was so bad, but I'm so proud of myself. You know, I took the risk. I did something that I wanted to do, doing it for the story. That's kind of the theme of like my whole life is like, do it for the story. I love YOLO energy. If someone's like, let's go on a trip, I'm like, I'm booking the flight. Like I'm there, like, let's do it. Right. So living for this story was something that I was really committed to. So I was proud of myself for doing that. But I'm with my friends in London and I get a text from the guy and I'm like, oh my God, you guys, he's messaging me. Like, what does he see in me? Like, that was such a weird date. But he was like, when are you going to be back in Madrid? I want to see you again. And
oh my God, I love it.
We then started hanging out, and he would take me on a couple of dates every week for the next like 3 months. And it really just turned into this like Lizzie McGuire movie experience of like running around together. And he was showing me his culture, and I was learning about Spain, and I was becoming more fluent in the language. And we were, you know, walking through the streets at night, sitting on the cathedral steps, like drinking out of an open bottle of wine.
God, I'm getting
like
goosebumps. I just love it.
It was just like a movie. And I was 21. So I was like, this, I just want to be in this right now because I know that this is going to disappear really quickly. It was, I was never thinking like I'm dating this guy or he could be my boyfriend or seeing a future. Like at that point, I didn't even know if he was seeing other girls. I was like, I don't know how many other, maybe he just likes to, you know, hang out with foreign girls. Like, I don't know. I didn't know really like what was happening behind the scenes, but I didn't want to know. I just wanted to be in the moment. I just love
that there's no attachment.
There was none.
You are like, there's no attachment, no resistance. You're just
none
so present.
Because it made no sense to even think that there would be an attachment.
Yeah.
Right? And so it made it so easy to just be in the moment because it was like the moment is all that we have. Like in the next couple of weeks, like this is going to be over. I'm going to get on a plane and I'm never going to see this person again. So like, fuck it. Like I might as well just like totally be in this. And so it really was like just, it was a movie, I swear.
Yeah, I love it.
And at the end of that, of course it ended and I got on the plane and I left to go home and I was emotional on the plane. I think we've all had that experience where it feels like you're in a movie, you're on the plane, you're like looking out the window, you're like crying. I see Madrid like disappearing below me. I'm like, he's down there somewhere. Oh. But I just kept thinking like, what a cool story. Like I'm gonna tell my kids someday about a time where I was brave enough to go to another country and like fall in love with someone and like really live life to the fullest. And it's really beautiful now to think about the fact that, of course, I'll tell my children that story someday, but the guy in the story will be their dad.
Yeah. It's so cool. Oh my God, I love it. And there's so much, like that story, because I love a metaphor, and that story, you could apply that to anywhere in your life. You know, like the way you felt in that whole experience, you were just authentically you. You had nothing to lose. You were just following that sacral energy, and it kind of turned out beyond your wildest dreams. That's so exciting. Like, honestly, that's how life is, right? It's how it can be.
Yeah. And I think it's even a good reminder for me, like reflecting on this story now, of like, how can I challenge myself to return to that level of non-attachment? Because it was so like completely non-attached. Like I didn't even think that there would be a future in it. And I think, you know, the more that you learn and the more that you grow and the more that you get into the strategy of how you're going to get where you want to be in life, the further away you get from that, you know, true, just like, here I am living my authenticity and I don't have any agenda. Like I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm just here for the story. I'm doing it for the plot. And so that really was the biggest catalyst in my life, not only because, you know, I met my fiance and it changed the whole trajectory of my future, but also because of him, I ended up, you know, after I finished my last year in university, deciding to move back to Spain. And that was the moment where I realized, like, okay, the PR, like marketing career, whatever, like, I actually don't know if that's right for me. I don't feel drawn to it. I did one corporate internship when I got back from Spain that summer, and I was like sitting in my cubicle, and it was such like an out of body experience because I had just lived a fucking fairy tale. And now I'm like in this like cubicle in Chicago, like, what am I doing here? Like, what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose? And I just saw these people around me that were, you know, twice my age, and they were in the same size cubicle doing the same thing. And that was like the big moment for me of, wow, like this does not light me up. This doesn't feel like what I'm hungry for and what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to fuck everything off, and I want to move back to Spain, and I want to date this guy, and I want to fall in love, and I want to travel more, and I want to get fluent. Like that was the thing that made all of my centers like, yes.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I packed my life into 2 suitcases. I declined my corporate job offers. I told my family, like, I'm moving back to Spain for the guy. And, you know, they all thought I was crazy. And I had to just follow that gut knowing, despite what everyone, you know, is trying to protect you. Because it does, it's, I think the biggest thing was probably this perception that I was being quite naive because I was really young at the time. And, you know, to throw away your degree that you've just spent so much money on, and that my parents helped me finance, and, you know, this job that was offered to me at the interview, at the table, like they really loved me. They saw so much potential in me, and to just go, yeah, I think I'm going to go like date this guy and make no money and be an English teaching assistant, you know, that has nothing to do with my career path. But I had to trust myself. And in doing that, moving to Spain was the catalyst for my whole personal development journey of me even discovering that like coaching was a thing, of becoming certified, of starting to blog more about my stories and what I was living through and the work that I was doing. And that eventually turned into a business and of course changed my whole life.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love all of it. I also want to go back to something, because again, you just speaking your design, and I just think it's really beautiful to just kind of point out. The first thing, that feeling that you said, is like, I just want to know what I'm going to do in the world. I didn't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. And like you have a completely undefined G center. Just I'm the same. And so there's this feeling of like, I need to know my direction. I need to know what my purpose is. And what I'm really curious about from your perspective, because from my perspective, I was like you. I hunted for it for 2 decades. Like it was a long journey. And I now know I'm on purpose, but it's not how I thought it would be.
Right.
So I'm really curious to know from your perspective, do you feel like you are living your purpose, and how do you know?
I do feel like I'm living my purpose. And I think, like I said earlier, the knowing that I had as a child, like really young, like when I was 4, I was telling my mom I was going to be an author and a teacher. So I think to look at the work that I do now and how I'm, through the podcast and the programs and all this stuff, like very much an educator of sorts, to look at that and to reflect on the fact that my soul knew that when I was so young is to me like a really good indicator that like that probably is the path and I'm on it. I think another, sign to me is the way that I feel when I'm doing this work is that, I love podcasting. I love teaching. I love synthesizing ideas and educating others. I love helping people reach their fullest potential in this lifetime. I love breaking down, blind spots and barriers that people aren't seeing for themselves. I love being that person. I also think it's always been my personality in a way to be that individual. And I think I've read a little bit about how this can happen for 5/1s. We get a lot of like the projection of like the savior, but that's been a big experience of my life is I'm always the friend that like has the deep life chats or that someone wants to confide in or like tell their story to, or like people just always wanted to have my advice. I think I was that friend. I was that kind of like big sister figure for a lot of people in my life. I was always the friend that would like stand up to people. I wasn't afraid to like speak out, to say things how it was, to be direct, but to also be like so loving at the same time in the way that I did that. And that was something that was really misunderstood for me when I was younger. The perception that I got from a lot of people was that I was a bitch because I was maybe, so confident or direct or really good at, seeing things exactly for kind of what they were and speaking to them. Even some of my best friends, I remember them telling me like, I thought you were a bitch before I knew you. But then they're like, but you're the fucking best. I love you. And it's so true. Like my center and my inside is so like soft and nurturing. And I have a Cancer moon. And so that it really is this, like, there's this warmth to me. But from the outside, I have that like Sagittarius kind of fire. And like you see it in my design too, of the way that I can just kind of like cut through the noise and speak to things. Yeah. So all of that, tells me that surely like this is part of like what I'm supposed to be doing.
I love that. And it's funny, isn't it, that people think you're a bitch because you have boundaries and because you tell the truth. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Again, it's this world that we live in that's really changing now. Even, the line 5. So with the line 5, people are going to project their wound onto you. So literally, they will point the finger at you when it's really them.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's great fun. But what I love about this whole story is, being a manifesting generator, it's all about freedom. It's about, like being larger than life. A lot of MGs feel like they're too much. And I think a lot of the stories that you're sharing that I think are so powerful is there's been plenty of projection and conditioning placed on you to like be smaller, stick to the rules, all this sort of stuff. And you're kind of like, nah, forget it.
Yeah, I was something that my mom always called me growing up was dramatic. I was always like too dramatic. The emotional reactions to things were always too big for what the world wanted. And I wrote a post about this recently. I was sharing some of the things that, at 31, I've like reflected on and are kind of embarrassing to admit in some ways. But I had this pattern early on in my relationship where when we would get into an argument or have a larger sort of like frustrating experience together and like a heated conversation, I felt like I needed to be theatrical in order for someone to really understand the bigness of what I was feeling. Like I could no longer be too dramatic, so I needed to raise my voice. I needed to slam the door. I needed to do the dramatic like walk out. And that's like, those are things I'm so not proud of, but that I've definitely worked on healing, and that isn't my pattern anymore. But upon reflection, I think it does relate a lot to this, idea that you just brought forward of like feeling like you're too much in a lot of ways. Yeah. But I also was like a performer as a kid. Like I was a competitive dancer. And so I was surrounded by, the idea of like wanting to be on the stage and be seen and be theatrical and be big. And, I'm naturally a loud person. So for sure, like I've been told like, you're too much.
I love that. And it's really interesting. So I'm just looking at, this is a little bit of the gene keys, but just bringing in your attraction sphere, which is your design moon, and you have it in the gate 51. And what's really interesting is like, this is how you attract people in relationships, and you've got the gate of shock. So it's like, yeah, like, because it's the shadow, yes, that like that shocking energy, like you said, you've kind of worked through it. It is the shadow expression of it. But really, like, that is actually authentically who you are. It's then trying to find the higher expressions of that. And look, with the 51, the beauty of this is it's always about awakening. So when you were younger and you didn't feel like you were heard, the slamming the door was really important, because it was like, I need to shock you to wake up. You need to hear what I'm saying. I need to feel seen or heard. So I love that. And again, this is why I love human design, because often when we're on our own healing journey, there are parts of ourselves, and even with the best intentions not to do this to ourselves, but we criticize and we judge our shadows. We're like, oh, I shouldn't behave that way. I need to fix it. I need to heal it. I need to change it. And I think in so many ways, it's so beautiful to bring human design and the gene keys in, because you're like, okay, it's just a part of who I am. Maybe I did express it from the shadow, but now I've been working on it. I know better. But yeah, I love that. The other thing you said earlier that I'm like, whoa, is that you have in your South Node on your personality side, you have the gate 20, which is the gate of the now, which would have been that energy that you're so used to. And it's when you met your fiance, like, you could just drop into that present moment and just be like, okay, I'm just going to be here. I don't need anything else. Like, because it's something for you that is going to be a large part of your path. So good.
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder, I don't know, I feel like in this season of my life, I'm not as present as I was then, probably because I have more like things to worry about and a million things running in the background. But it's interesting to know that I have that kind of like gate of now, and that actually is like one of my kind of superpowers, if you will.
Yeah. And I think one of the things for you just on that as well, because you have a defined head and ajna, so you have defined mental energy, meaning that you're always going to have a mind that's effectively running the zeros and ones. It's always going to be going. And it's really important for you to understand, like, if you meditate, try meditating with a mantra like TM or Vedic meditation, because it gives the mind, something to do. It's so important for you not to think like, oh, I have to completely still my mind, because your mind does not work that way. It can potentially have 3 conversations with precise clarity and be 5 steps ahead of everyone else, and it's all perfectly fine,
Yeah.
Whereas I would be freaking out at that stage. So let's talk a bit about the business. From a human design perspective, you're a manifesting generator. So again, this is something that once you're lit up, we are here on the planet to demonstrate human potential. We skip steps. We can often make it look like, oh, that was quick, but really we're like kind of breaking stuff, remaking stuff, falling down, getting back up, working out the fastest way.
Are you looking to build a successful human design or astrology business? Do you wish that you had your own chart tool on your website so you don't have to send people somewhere else to get it? Bodygraph.com provides all the resources you need to turn this vision into a reality. We use this incredible software in our business to provide charts and custom reading reports at the click of a button, generate leads, and bring in lots of passive revenue. Bodygraph.com has already helped coaches and entrepreneurs generate over $2.5 million in revenue. If you're ready to take your business seriously, start with a free trial and use the code HumanDesignPodcast to get 30% off for 6 months. Here's what you can do with Bodygraph.com. Embed stunning charts directly into your website, build personalized lead magnets to grow your email list, create and sell detailed reading reports, and even use their free website builder to get started fast. Bodygraph.com is the ultimate all-in-one platform for building your human design or astrology business. If you're ready to join the community of successful entrepreneurs, visit bodygraph.com and start building your dream business today. Follow the link in the show notes and use the code HumanDesignPodcast to get 30% off for 6 months.
Tell us a bit about this journey to create the business, because it sounds very intuitive where you got to the point where you started it. Tell me about how you grew the business, because again, how many role models did you have to look to? Or were you just like, I don't know, I'm just going to work this out as I go?
Yeah, I think to this point that we've also been talking about of, the less you know, the better, and just kind of like following that innocent like pull towards something. I never had an intention really to like be a coach or build a coaching business per se. I just knew that I wanted to share what I was learning and what was changing my life. Because I was living in Spain at the time and making virtually no money. But I started attracting these really incredible opportunities. I got the chance to work with a major influencer who was going to be leading retreats like all over the world and amazing destinations like Greece and Bali. And so they, put it out to their audience of hundreds of thousands of people. We're looking for this intern that we want to help us like intimately with these things. And I was so into like the mindset, manifestation, yoga, mindfulness at the time. I had gotten my, yoga teacher training, and it's like, this is so up my alley. This is so much more something that like lights me up that I would want to be doing than teaching English in the schools here. So even though it was unpaid, I was like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this role. And so out of the thousands of people that applied, because they had a huge audience, I got it. Like they were like, we just wanted to interview with you. We saw your video and we just felt like it was for you. And so I got that job and I started doing that. And so there was all these like things that were working and that were evolving. And I just wanted to share that with people. I wanted to teach. So I was blogging because I loved to write. And I started sharing more on Instagram and kind of being the cringy person because at the time, this is like 2017, and I didn't follow anyone that was doing that at the time. It was only like influencers who kind of shared like that. But I was writing like deep things about my experience and what I was going through. And I was sharing every day. And that was spammy at the time to post like every single day. Now we're trying to post 3 times a day. But yeah, it was sort of innocent the way that I was going about it. And then a girl that I met on one of the retreats that I was helping to run through that opportunity that I got, actually we stayed in touch, and an Australian girl actually, and she had mentioned to me in one of our like FaceTime catch-ups that she was going to do this certification for being a life purpose coach. And I was like, that sounds kind of cool. Like, I love to learn. I kind of want to go deeper into this. I'd love to be able to help people in a more formal way, and not just through like my blog and Instagram, but to really be able to guide people. So I ended up doing a life coaching certification because she brought the idea to the forefront for me. And so then that opened up this idea, well, maybe this could be something. And I started, my first venture that I ever did was actually writing an ebook, writing a book, funnily enough.
There it is.
Of sorts. So I wrote this whole book, and it was basically detailing out the frameworks and the tools and this whole like process that I had taken myself through to get to this point of like really radically changing my life and the opportunities I was attracting, but also my relationship to myself, my body, like more money, all these things. And then I was like, oh, I think this could be more than an ebook. I think I could actually like guide people through this as an experience. Like we could meet every week and we could talk about it, and I could take them through the exercises, and then I could make it personalized for them. And so that sort of in a way became my first coaching venture. And so at the end of that, I was exhausted because I was, working 3 jobs at the time and also coaching 7 people one-on-one for 12 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
And so I was like, I love this, and the transformations were insane, but I'm burnt out, and I've got to find a way to scale this, to make it, because I think I can make it into something, but I can't keep doing it the way that I'm doing it. Yeah. And so that was the point in which I hired my first business coach, someone who just had done it more than me and could teach me the ways to, actually you could turn this into a digital course. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I could, instead of having the same conversation every single week with every single person, just make a video on it, like build it into a training. And so the way into the business was, again, this sort of like effortless, kind of innocent, stumbling through, trying things, and then just realizing that it could turn into something. But since then, that's been years now of growing it to this level. I do think that it's taken a deeper level of strategy and learning and understanding, but there's always been that side of me that follows what I know to be true, not just the formula that someone's been trying to give me. Because I have a lot of friends that also have grown 7-figure businesses, and they'll tell me, I've literally wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on mentorship, or I followed this mentor, and I really noticed myself kind of starting to become them. Yeah. And then they would come back and be like, I started building something that I didn't actually want, and it was so weird. And then they're confused. And so I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of my peers about that. And they often ask me like, how did that not happen to you? Like how did, because I don't have that experience. I don't feel like I've, had any real like bad investments where I've gotten in bed with the wrong mentor, or like I've tried to become the mini me of someone. And I think, like what I told you before, one of my main mantras is self-trust is my main business strategy.
Yeah.
And so, yes, of course, going from not knowing what I'm doing, accidentally building a coaching business to, earning multi-seven figures, like there has to be strategy involved in that. I absolutely had to learn from people that knew more than me and take their steps and integrate things. But there's always been this weaving of how does this work for me and how does this fit into what I want, of, not having a big team. I never wanted to do that. And I had mentors that were like, delegate out, create this system. Don't rely on one unicorn assistant who can do everything for you, because when they leave or when something goes wrong, then you're fucked. And I just was like, well, I have a unicorn assistant and I love her, and she's been on my team for over 4 years.
Yep.
And so there's been, of course, pulling the strategies and things from people that know more, but always at the same time allowing my sacral to lead.
Yeah, I love that. And just it's always through the filter of, does this feel true for me?
Yeah.
And I love that you pointed out this, there's so many people out there investing so much money in mentors, in coaches, in all that sort of thing, and then realizing that, oh my God, you've literally just taught me to be you, and it doesn't work for me. And I feel like that is such an important lesson for all entrepreneurs, because really I think so much of the success I've seen with the people that I've interviewed and the friends around me, the ones that are the most successful and fulfilled are all the ones that have really walked their own path.
I think that's why whenever I'm working with clients, and they'll say, well, how much should I charge for this? Or how many times should I post? Or how should I launch this thing? I'm never going to prescribe. I'll share with everyone full transparency of how we do things. You can have the inside, back end look at what the strategy was, what we did, from an information perspective, not withholding anything or gatekeeping, and certainly not being fluffy in the aspect of just going, well, what do you feel like you should do? So not that, but it's also, let's share all of the information so that you can take that. But the ultimate question that I'm going to ask you is, what does your gut say? What feels right for you? And also knowing what I know about my clients, being able to say, well, this is, the strategy that's really worked for you. Or when I notice that when you're doing this, you are really on fire. You create a lot of momentum. Or I know that you tried this one way and that really burnt you out and you fucking hated it. So why are you coming to me saying that you're going to do that again? Being able to reflect back to them and help them remember the essence of who they truly are and what works for them in business to propel them forward, rather than just this is the way, follow the way.
What is so interesting about what you just said is that's literally your incarnation cross.
I was going to ask you about this on my show. I totally forgot, because I'm like, what is it? I don't even tell me.
So your incarnation cross, it's actually called the job description of your aura. So it's not something that you do. It's something that you're already being. So yours is very much what you just described. That is your incarnation cross. That's the energy of it. And what happens is our cross is always playing out. We don't have to do anything. We just have, the more authentic we are, the more aligned we are, the more powerful and impactful it's going to be. Now, for you, a lot of that, your incarnation cross is here about that reflection piece. It's you're very good. Your energy is always going to reflect back, okay, this is where you're, like you said, well, you did this thing and this happened. But when you did this happened. The energies that you've got the 9 and the 16. So the 9 is the gate of focus. And this is actually your life's work. So it's all about focusing on, and I think it's potentially because you've been in alignment for so long, the 9's kept you out of the mud. Because it's this ability to focus really deeply on the thing that's correct for you. Now, in its shadow, you focus on all the things that everyone else thinks you should, or what your conditioning says you should focus on. But if you stay focused on your big dream, and that could be something that have a certainty about, or it's just a feeling, but when you focus on that, then every single action you take leads you to that goal. And I feel like that's a large part of what you're actually helping other people do. You're reflecting back that pure focus, what you see. It's like you're actually seeing the small steps that they're not seeing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the 16, this is the gate of enthusiasm. I have the 16, I have the 9 and the 16, but on the other side. And it's this energy that, you know, like you have a real enthusiasm for whatever lights you up. You know, a lot of my friends are like, oh my God, I can't get over how enthusiastic you are about life. Like you see a bird and it's like the best thing you've ever seen. I'm like, I know, right? But it's so good. And
It's me with the moon every time.
Right. And it's this the 16 is also mastery. It's this very, so you're the investigator, the line 1 in your profile, but the 16 always wants to master things. So you're always going to,
unfortunately.
And being an MG, you're going to be multi-passionate and you're going to want to get really good at things. But the beauty of the 16 is that when you master something, you move past this beautiful point where you no longer do the things the way they need to be done, and all of a sudden it turns into this, it's uniquely you. It's like when the artist becomes Picasso or Van Gogh is the moment that they step out of, you know, how you should paint or how you should draw. But you have to do those things first before you get to that point. So, and this is actually like mastery is something that's going to ground you in what you do in your life, in your work.
I just want to ask you about that quickly, because I feel like often feel a sense of pressure to reach like the mastery. And especially in business, like I'll see a lot of other people just moving so quickly with things. Like the second they learn something, they put out an offer about it and they're able to monetize so fast. And my creative process of, if I'm, you know, building something that I really want to teach other people, it's much slower. And it's something that I've had to come to terms with, of like, yes, I can move quickly in the sense of behind the scenes and in my own like integration and learning. But when it comes to like presenting it to students or clients, or, you know, showing up as the teacher of that thing, it's really important to me that I feel like I'm anchored in the mastery of it. And I think that it's good because it shows like integrity in a way. But sometimes I wonder if I put too much pressure on myself to like literally feel like I know this inside and out before I can even like talk about it with someone.
So I would guess that is actually a lot of the shadow of your line 1. So the line 1 has this whole, it's the investigator, it needs all the answers. But the truth is that you need only the answers that you need to move forward. How do you know that you've got those answers? You have energy to move forward. The sacral says it's time to move forward. So if you're feeling pressure and it feels uncomfortable, then there's a good chance that you're in the shadow, that actually you don't need as much as you think you need, but you keep yourself in that trap. It's probably the number 1 shadow for a line 1. They do get stuck. They're the ones that they want the next certification. They want more information. They think, well, to be the authority, I have to have this, this, and this. And it's a huge misconception, because you're the authority because you've gathered all the information and you've filled in the gaps. You've created a really good, strong foundation. And once your authority says, yep, you have energy to move forward, then you've got to learn to actually just move forward. But the 16 could also just be that energy that if you are in alignment, it's also this energy of repetition, you know? So maybe you do, maybe it feels correct. But at the end of the day, is it giving you energy or is it draining your energy? If you're feeling pressure and that you're draining your energy, then you're operating from the mind. You're operating from the ego, what you should do, as opposed to what actually feels correct. But a lot of line 1s will keep themselves at the start.
Like the forever student.
Yeah.
Trapped.
And you probably will be anyway, because A, the time that we live in, B, you've also got the 16. So the odds of you wanting to be continually the student, but it's always, do I have energy for this? Because there will be large blocks of time that you won't. You know, even as a manifesting generator, you're going to hit a plateau. And when you hit the plateau, this is where a lot of generators and manifesting generators get themselves into trouble, because they're like, oh my God, I don't have energy for that thing anymore. No. You're just in the plateau, you're integrating, you're resting, you're probably playing. And the important thing is just to do that, to rest, to be there. But what a lot of MGs and generators will do is they quit whatever they're doing in that plateau. And you got to learn not to do that. Unless there's something external to quit to, like being in response, then you just have to integrate.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that too in some of my manifesting generator friends or even, clients and things, which it's so interesting. I'm sure you get this a lot. I think people can sometimes use different parts of their design as like a weird excuse to like do so and like do it in the name of like being aligned with their design when it's not actually. Like I think a lot of Manny Gens might be like, oh, I like quit and start things all the time because I'm multifaceted and that's how I'm supposed to be. And it's like, well, this is something that I always challenge and counter because I'm a Manny Gen and I've been very consistent in everything that I've done. But I definitely have had seasons where it's like quieter or I'm like integrating. I had my first 100K month and the next 2 months I was like, I'm not going to sell anything. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna chill. Like I'm just riding the wave. There was a full year where I like unplugged from mentorship because I felt like I'm just integrating everything and like applying things. But then by the end of that, I was like, I have energy again. So let's go more. Like I wanted to be on the gas. So it is kind of more moving through those seasons for sure.
And I love what you said. I actually think one of my kind of, irritations is that people use their design as a dogma, as an identity. Like I can't do that because I'm a blah, blah. And at the end of the day, this is a roadmap. It's not who you are. How you express this energy, that's who you are. It's not, I think a lot of manifesting generators do quit unnecessarily and they just, mark it up as, well, I'm an MG, that's what I do. So I love that. And one of the things you say over and over and over again in your language, and again, this is your core talent, so this is just bringing in the gene keys.
I'm like, oh God, what's she going to say?
Go deep, go deep. I like to go deep. It's always about depth. So your core talent is actually depth. It's this, it's the gate 48. It's this energy of, in the I Ching, it's all about the well. And in the shadow, it's the shadow or the fear of inadequacy, like not enoughness. And the metaphor of the well is, it's dark and it's scary and I don't want to go there. But it's actually one of the very deeply divine feminine gates because the divine feminine isn't afraid of the dark. She knows that if you go as deep as you possibly can into your shadow, then you can bring light to it. And then once you bring light to it, then you can help everyone else do the same thing. So it's just really cool to hear over and over again you say the depth. I like to go deep, like deep conversations, because literally it's the number one thing that you're here to do on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that I also always felt like there's this side of me that's very like philosophical, and you can see that in just through astrology being the Sagittarius. That's kind of like the archetype there, but it is that because that's what the philosopher wants to do is to like unpack things, to go deep, to understand, to dissect. And I love that. Like I think deep conversations is my love language.
Yeah, I love that.
Like I'm allergic to small talk.
Yeah, I can't do it. Like I often say to people, I'm so socially awkward because I cannot talk about the weather.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. Like I'm just going to stand at the buffet and eat food. I can't. Otherwise, like
how do I go up to these people and ask them what their greatest fear is?
Yeah, exactly. Just do it. Let's just do it and see what happens. Run the experiment. And I also love because you talk about the philosopher. You also have in your Sun and Earth on the design side, you got the 64. And the 63, these are mental gates, these are head gates. The 64 is actually like the ultimate dump of information. Like it's where source puts all the information down into the mind. And because you have the whole channel, it's actually sifting through all the information, like everything that exists. It's also this energy of, because the whole channel is about repatterning, reprogramming, looking to the past, what didn't work, what did work, how do we change, like ancestral healing. And a lot of that energy actually comes when you have mental energy, you align to your mental energy when you learn not to try and work it out, not to try and force yourself to think yourself through things, but instead receive the guidance. There's the pattern. Now I see how it works out. I see how that makes me feel. This means that, as opposed to trying to like dive in and like cross all the T's and dot all the I's. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, the receivership for sure. Like all the best things in my life have come from that sort of energy rather than like the, trying to force myself to figure it out.
I love that. So let's say a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs. So let's talk a bit about, growing a business. Let's say someone is kicking off, they're maybe transitioning out of a corporate career, they've got a coaching business on the side or something like that. How do you feel, what's the best way that they actually transition out of that and into a business that, you know, is going to grow and scale for them?
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice that I could give here is around the importance of building a personal brand. I know that it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to be the face of a brand, but I really do think, especially with the rise of AI, like you and having some sort of like uniqueness to your journey, your stories, the way you synthesize information, being the differentiator and the thing that sets you apart. Because nowadays, it used to be the case maybe where people were investing in coaching or buying digital education products because of simply the information that it provided. But the information is widely available everywhere now, right? Especially with things like ChatGPT. And even like just when we had YouTube, like you want to learn how to do anything in your business, there's probably a video on it. Like all the information is there for free. So people are not buying information, they're buying personality. Yeah. They're investing in your, specific kind of way, and also this kind of reality TV effect that gets created through our marketing and personal branding, which is like, why do we care so much about these characters on the TV? It's because we've seen the evolution. They've taken us along on that journey. We've seen them, when they're winning, when they're losing, and kind of the behind the scenes of how hard it was for them, the emotional moments, the highs. And that's what makes us deeply emotionally invested into that character. And you get to become that character for your audience in a lot of ways when you actually open up more and step into your true authenticity and not be afraid to pull back the curtain and share the things that, yes, you believe that you're an expert at, but also the things that you're still working through and the vulnerabilities. And I just think the importance of really building a personal brand is going to be the thing that differentiates you and creates longevity for this career that you're wanting to move into. The hard part about that is that that's not a short game strategy. That's not, okay, build a personal brand in the next 2 weeks and now you can leave your corporate job.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like the advice that no one really wants to hear because everyone wants the quick fix of what's going to, be the biggest thing. But if you're trying to become resourced enough, make enough money so that you can leave your job, then you should probably be focusing on first those like high intensity, really amazing transformational experiences, close proximity, deep, personalization and mastery that you can deliver for someone on an individual level so that you can charge more high ticket for it, because that's going to bring more revenue into the business that allows you to have the kind of optionality of being able to delegate or hire out or scale further or leave your corporate job. I think a big mistake that a lot of people make, especially when they're heart-centered and they're spiritual, is they go, I want to help everybody, so I'm going to make things super cheap and I'm going to make everything, so accessible, and I'm going to sell this $27 ebook, and hopefully if 1,000 people buy it, it's really freaking hard to get 1,000 people to buy something. And so I think that's a challenge for especially women who like really want to help and they want to make things accessible. And I talk about this idea of like the formula for wealth and the fact that a lot of people don't want to follow the formula for wealth, but the fact of the matter is that there is one. If you think about people even outside of entrepreneurs, but like you look at hedge fund managers, lawyers, plastic surgeons, like these are really high earners. What do they have in common? They solve a high value problem for a high caliber client. They get paid a lot of money, and then to create actual wealth, they're likely taking that money, investing it into assets, allowing it to compound over time. And so if we can do that, then you can, at a certain point, help whoever you want. Yeah. You can help as many people as you desire at any level and magnitude that you want. You could donate to every cause that you care about. You could donate your time. You could work for free. You could give away your resources, because now you are a well and you have this overflow. You've resourced yourself. And so now you can resource others. And so the biggest kind of misalignment that I see is people wanting to start by helping everybody, and it doesn't work that way. You have to really start with one thing that that you're amazing at, that you can really monetize, that solves a high value problem. So not like a fluffy, like, No one's going to buy. I want more clarity. It's not high value enough.
Yep.
I need to be really emotionally driven and motivated to solve this problem in my life. And you need to show me how you can solve that problem. So it's a high value problem for a high caliber client. And spiritual Sarah is going to get all upset because she's like, well, I don't want to help just, rich people. I don't want to just help people that have money. But the fact of the matter is if you want to be able to help, if you want to truly be able to be one of those people that's like, take a look at like a Tony Robbins or someone who like is feeding billions of people now. He wasn't able to do that from day one. He's only able to do that because he became a well-resourced, wealthy individual. And so, yeah, I think that's the advice that I would give to someone who's in that stage is just knowing that, having that in mind, the combination of knowing that there is a formula for wealth and that it's probably in your best interest to be building a personal brand.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that you're right, it's so common that people want to help everyone. I'm pretty sure that was the story that I told, early on in my entrepreneurial career as well. And I do feel like there's also that part of that is actually a self-worth journey that early on when we want to help everyone and keep our prices really low, it's a massive reflection of our self-worth. And when you talk about the wealth strategy of creating something that's actually worth more money, and it's a big problem, and it's helping people that also have like a ripple effect. If you help this one person, you're actually already helping all these other people. That's also a massive self-worth journey, because I think a lot of people say they want to serve everyone, but they just don't think that they're good enough to really help these, this audience that's going to get them where they need to go.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's something that you work your way towards, right? At least in my own experience, it was like, and you probably relate because you say that your design is like trial and error. It's like you do stuff and then you realize, well, okay. Yeah. And you work your way towards it. But if someone's at that point where they're like really wanting to understand what's going to be the game changer for me to like get out of this career that I don't feel aligned with and really be someone who's like powerful in business and can go full time and like have this overflow of abundance, it's important that they understand that from the outset. I didn't know that. If I had that information, I may have approached like the early stages of my business differently. The first thing that I did was make an ebook. I think that's the worst thing that you can do. I would never recommend that to someone, right? So it's like through that trial and error, now we can look back and say, hey, that probably wasn't the fastest route, but hopefully I can reach my hand back and help some other people, go a little bit faster.
I love that. So I am pretty conscious of time. I don't know how much longer we've got. But I would really love to talk about creating a personal brand, because I feel like a lot of people are hesitant. They kind of don't want to be the face of the business. And then I also, in my experience, I've kind of discovered, and it was funny, we were trying to come up with almost a title for one of these positions, but we've kind of discovered over the years that you've got like the visionary, so what we might call the personal brand. So I'm the visionary in my business. But then, so Taylor that works with me, she's someone who is hugely ambitious. She is hugely talented, but she doesn't want to be a visionary. She doesn't want to be the face. Like, she wants to have all this success and all of the, the freedom and the impact and all of those things. So she's the alchemist. She's the one that kind of like, I'm out there, I'm teaching, I'm creating the IP, I'm doing all the things, and then she literally alchemizes it into the business model. And then we have like the third person who we haven't actually decided on what this actual name is, but this person that is then filling in all the gaps, taking care of everything. I don't know if you've ever have you ever watched Suits?
Yes.
So Donna, right? It's that Donna role, right? So I'd love, I don't know if you have anything to respond to there, but the personal brand, I think it's really important for people to understand that a personal brand, yes, my personal brand is about me. However, you don't have to be the face of the business to be a part of a personal brand. There's kind of like other roles that are in there that you can have just as much impact and not have to be the face of the business.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Like you mentioned Taylor on your team and my assistant that's been with me for 4+ years. The reason that she's been so successful in that role and that we've had such longevity together is because she doesn't want to be the face, right? And so you need people like that, and it's going to be different for everyone. So I think if you are someone who's wanting to build a business and you do want to be at the center, then absolutely. Like, I think nowadays, at least in today's market, like personal brand is the way. And as much as you might have resistance to things like social media or creating content or whatever, it's kind of the name of the game of like how things are nowadays. And so even for me, you know, I'm not naturally a content creator, but I've had to like lean into that because that allows me to have more of the impact and the reach and to be the face and to build more of like a really solid and steady personal brand. But of course, to your point, not everyone's going to be lit up about that. That's not going to be everyone's right role. And if it were, it would be impossible to build a team because everyone would just be fighting to be like, you know, the main girl. And so there's ways for people certainly to be wildly successful and also be a part of these missions that are impacting, you know, hundreds of thousands of people. And that can be really fulfilling for them, even if they are totally, you know, behind the scenes.
And I love that. I think it's always important for us just to say, like, you don't have to be the one out the front because I don't know about you. I love it. Like, give me a microphone, you know, point me in a direction, ask me questions. Sure, teach, sure, easy. And I think it's so important in the entrepreneurial space just to make sure that everyone knows that not everyone is, you know, designed to want to be like that.
Yeah.
And I think to your point earlier, the other thing we have to be very conscious of, I always talk about, am I out of alignment or am I out of my comfort zone? Because I think we need to understand the difference between those two things because so many times there are people going, oh, I'm out of alignment. No, you're not. You're just out of your comfort zone because your comfort zone is uncomfortable once you leave it. So hence
the name.
Yeah, exactly. So what advice would you give to people? Like, how do they know that they're out of their comfort zone and it's actually a good discomfort?
Yeah, I had this experience a year or so ago where I was invited to speak at Abercrombie & Fitch headquarters because of someone that was on the team that actually listened to the podcast. And so they thought of me when they had this opportunity to bring a speaker in, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I was, of course, excited to do it, but there was also a part of me that didn't want to do it because it was hard, because it was going to require a lot of preparation, because I was going to have to stand up in front of, you know, a room full of corporate people, knowing that like half of my story is like, I ditched corporate.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like this imposter syndrome kind of thing coming up of, oh my gosh, like, am I the right person to be speaking to these people? I don't know anything about corporate life. I pieced out before I could even get started. Like, what can I share with them that's also not like, that's empowering and inspiring, but isn't like, hey, like quit your job, right? Because I'm being hired by this company to come and empower their employees. And so that was an example of a time for me where I really felt that teetering between trying to figure out, is this out of alignment or is this just out of my comfort zone? And ultimately, I think for me, because I am sacral, the feeling was like physically being pulled by the sacral of like, you should do this. Like, I want to be there. I want to be that person. I want to be that version of me. I want to stand in this room. Like, this is an amazing opportunity. Like, let's go. You deserve this. Fuck yeah. That like pull. And then there was the other part that was like the resistance of like, but I have so much going on. We have so many projects. Like, how am I going to fit this in? I can't do this. Maybe I'm not the right person. What am I going to talk to them about? But knowing that like the initial energetic feeling in the body was like, whoa, like, yes, like this is an amazing opportunity. That was how I knew, okay, this is an experience where it's not out of alignment. It's just out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it's like, just the difference between the body gave you the feedback straight away and then the mind told you all the stories, you know. And I suppose that's another thing that for me personally, I've always been really, you know, I've done a lot of work on my mindset, on my belief systems, my identity. But what would be your guidance for people? I know you do a lot of sort of mindset work. How do we need to actually, or at least, what's the question I want to ask? What are the most important things we need to understand about our mindset and our identity to actually create success in our life? Like, what do we need to do with those things?
I think the foundation of it really is the idea that I believe our thoughts become things. And the internal world is creating the reflection of the external world that you're experiencing, which when I first kind of started going into my own spiritual journey of learning about, energies and frequency and the scale of consciousness and all of that, I was like, could that really be true? But when you live it and you experience it so deeply over and over again, you just know without a doubt, like, it's so crazy that your whole world around you could start to mold and shift and change simply because you've decided to change the filtration system, right? Like literally in the brain, the reticular activating system is the filter. And so what you think and feel most often becomes what you believe, and you replay those beliefs, and those beliefs turn into behaviors, and they turn into the types of people that you feel that you deserve to be working with or in relationship with. And so that creates, these patterns and a flow-on effect of actions, which then reinforce the identity that, like, I am this person. And so your identity is really built from that combination of what you're thinking and feeling and experiencing most often. So if you can intentionally start to manipulate what you're thinking and feeling and experiencing most often, you will wake up in a couple of months, in a year, and realize that the whole world around you, it's almost like you're living in a simulation and all the walls of your old life kind of collapsed and this whole new city was built around you, because now you're seeing so many things to be grateful for. Now you're seeing so many opportunities. You're seeing the positives in things. When you miss the train, you're not pissed off and in a bad mood. You're like, well, it was for a reason. Simple things like that have a crazy ripple effect of who you end up encountering, the conversations that you get into, the wisdom that pours through you, your receptivity to actually receive downloads, because you're not so stuck in your head and overthinking and trying to force something, but you're really just in this energy of openness and believing that there's a huge possibility and potential for your life. And I think that's one of the big things that holds a lot of people back is they narrow the scope of their own potential by what they choose to continuously engage in with their thoughts. We all receive like crazy, wild, negative thought. I have intrusive thoughts. I'll be walking down the street randomly, passing a person, and I'll think about what happens if this person stabs me right now? Like a crazy thought. If I go deep into that rabbit hole, I could create a whole anxious identity for myself. Yeah. I could tell myself that something is really wrong with me, that I'm not okay. But there's a difference between when the thoughts come to visit, if we actually engage with them, or if we have enough consciousness and enough perspective to take that kind of third party look and go, wow, that was a really unhinged, interesting thought that just tried to come and visit me. Yeah. But like, I'm going to let that thought know that my vessel is not a home for that kind of conversation. My vessel is not available for that kind of anxiety that I know is senseless, that I know is silly. And it doesn't mean anything about me because it's not me, because that thought didn't come from my soul. It came as like a frequency, as an energy of its own, and came to try to like be manifested through me. And I said, I'm not open to that. I'm not going to be your way into the world. I'm not going to be the vessel to create a physical manifestation of that thought. And so when you can start to consciously control, that all the elements of your internal world, you'll be shocked. I was, I'm sure you were, at what actually starts to unfold around you in your life.
Oh my God, I love that. And I love the idea of, no, I will not be the vessel for you to manifest into the world. That is so cool. I just love it. Oh my goodness, I'm pretty sure I have to actually let you go. Thank you so much for being here with me on the podcast in real life.
I know.
It's been so good chatting to you.
Such a pleasure.
I would also just like let the listeners know, where can they find the podcast? Where can they find you online or on Insta?
Yeah, so you guys can find me mostly on Instagram at _Samantha Daily. If you want to check out the podcast, we just did an awesome episode with Emma, which was crazy. So you can come over and find us at Makeshift Happen Podcasts, anywhere that you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and on YouTube if you want to see us live in studio together here
Amazing.
in Miami.
I love it. So good. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for being here. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now. Mwah.